And then that's your gateway. And then you're straight to the devil.
Well, then you're me, and you got runes, you got tea leaves, you got tarot, you got I got pentagons and pentacles all over the house. So I'm here for it.
Well, let's
and you know what?
Pentagon a break. And
which is just a really sturdy card as it looks. It's about stability. It's a very masculine energy card. That's the thing, is there are energies to each card. So it's the number 4, if that means anything to you, in the major arcana, which is the major arcana, I'm sure Jackie knows, but are the last set of cards in a tarot deck that represent more themes and people. And so when you pull one, it's more significant in a way. It's representing a theme in your life, or a person in your life, or maybe just a character trait of yours right now in your life. But
okay,
yeah,
so numerology
cool.
I've done, and one of them, like, I think it's like Pythagorean, like same math guy as Pythagorean theorem.
A squared, B squared, C squared. We got it.
Yeah. I love that you know the like actual
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It's the equilateral triangle.
Oh my gosh, that really resonates, actually. Okay, this is what's crazy about tarot is I pull 10 of Wands all the time. So
no,
you just pulled that. Yes, like that seriously, you just pulled that for me virtually.
The thought of, even if you don't believe in tarot cards, but you pull a card every day and do the mental work of seeing if you identify it with it or not, that is emotional labor that you are taking, and that is self-work that you are doing, right? So like, even if you don't believe in like the magic of these things, I actually do really believe in like, I'm a big believer that like you get out of the world what you put into it, right? And so if you're putting mental energy into a belief system, then that belief system is going to work for you. If you're putting the mental energy into like self-reflecting every day, then that's what you're going to get out of it. And
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a dark and stormy night of We're Experts. It's spooky season, and we are feeling the fall vibes. I'm summoning them on. What are you summoning this week, Jackie? Oh, I didn't say my name. I'm Rebecca. Hi, anyway. We're here.
You're Rebecca, and now you already know I'm Jackie, but I saw it was like hot girl summer, but I'm really gonna thrive in reclusive girl fall.
Reclusive girl fall.
That is definitely who I
love
am.
a girl themed season. Avoid. We had rat girl summer in response to hot girl summer. I love that for the little scurriers out there. I feel like I identify more with rat girl than hot girl. So I hate the summer. I'm just gonna say it. I don't love Leo.
Well, you like the out, so that you do have. I hate it, and so I'm just pissed off.
I like a heat treat. You know, I don't like just the wallowing in a long, languid summer. I'm the opposite of a Leo. Okay, I'm a sensitive, sweet water baby. I don't want to work out. Oh God, I just am complaining now, but that's my truth, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. So, I got an amateur alert. You know this is coming.
Yeah, I have so much anticipation right now because I don't even know what to say because you teased before we even started recording that there was something you were going to tell me on the pod, and I'm like, geez, it's going to be for me and the listener, this is a surprise.
Well, they get to hear it first time with you. So, I took a nap today. I had a headache, and I knew we were going to record for the pod, so I went ahead and took a nap. When I took that nap, I got a call from my Uncle David. Love him. We found him on 23andMe a few years ago. Him and I are super tight. Shout out to Uncle David. Well, I didn't answer it, but I saw the text message that he left when I woke up.
One of those.
And that text message informed me that we have found yet another sibling of my father's on 23andMe.
When you find, so before you found your uncle, did you know of any other siblings of your father, or this was the first one?
My dad's 2 full siblings, my aunt and my uncle. I don't really get along with most of my dad's family, so I'm not in contact with the vast majority of them. When I found out about Uncle David, I was thrilled. We have so much in common. Like, we just vibed. It's been a treat for me because for the listeners that don't know, my father passed away many, many years ago. I always really wanted to have that close connection of family. So when I found Uncle David, I was just like, yes. So,
but is Uncle David a like half sibling or anything, or?
yes. So my Uncle David was born a few months after my father, like 8 months or 6 months after my father. So while my grandmother was pregnant with my dad. So my grandfather was a literal milkman, like a legitimate, that was his job. And while he worked there, he got this woman, the Uncle David's mother, pregnant, and he was adopted out. We never knew about him. And now there's I'm not going to disclose her name because I don't know if she wants that. But we got Aunt X. Now we'll call her Aunt X, and she seems pretty cool. Uncle David said she's like one of us, not one of them,
love
which
this.
means
I
the
love
rest
that
of
the
my family.
bastard relatives are the best relatives.
And I'm like, I want to be a bastard relative.
So I feel like now that this is like opened a whole can of worms where it's like first it was just Uncle David, now we've got Aunt Xtina here. There could be a plethora, and it's like usually the saying goes like, you know, she's cheating on you with the milkman, but now I'm like, I guess even the milkman is getting cheated on by the cheese man. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, wow. So we are very thrilled. And my grandfather was apparently a skis ball. But the funniest thing is that we know my mom has 2 half siblings. That is the original thing I was looking for. And we haven't found my mom's 2 half siblings, but we found about 2 half siblings of my dad that I didn't know about. So I woke up at 3:20 when we were supposed to record at 3:30. And I immediately had to call my mom and my brother and be like, guess how redneck we are? Yes, we are.
Welcome to the family tree. It's a circle.
So that's, I mean, it's an amateur alert in the sense of my family is a bunch of amateurs because we don't know how to use protection. And also that I took a nap and then found out a new family member and just didn't plan well today.
Yeah, so. You woke up with new generational trauma. It's beautiful.
All right, speaking of generational trauma, what are we talking about today?
All right, we have a spiritual topic that I don't, you know, I'm just going to say right now, I don't want to, you know, overreach any claims we make here. This is something that we're going to speak from an admirational place. We're talking about tarot. And this is something I know that you dabble in. I mean, the viewer can see behind you all the witchy stuff adorning your walls. We've got tarot, magic, moon cycles, astrological tendencies. So this is a big topic that we're going to delve into with our, you know, full awareness of being crystal bitches and just with a love for the mysterious.
I mean, I'm about it. It's spooky month. Let's do the fun topics that really light up that, you know, month. I'm about it. We're going to do the rest of the month is also going to be exciting, folks. So tune in, strap in, get ready to go. But yes, I read tarot myself. I would not call myself incredibly talented, right? It is a hobby. It is something I enjoy to do. It's kind of fun with your friend that comes over for a wine night. You pull out the tarot cards and you're like, I can read your future. So I definitely know, I think, a lot of the foundation of it. And I know a little bit of like the history, but again, I would still say that I am, you know, this is for fun. This is not something I really, really have like my family doesn't do it. Like I'm Wiccan, but my niece is Wiccan now, but that's really because of me. My mom's mad about it, but it isn't something like I had family members who do it because I know that's really common. There's a lot of like people who are gifted in that sense, or people who read tarot or whatever, like palm readers. It tends to run in the family too, right? You know, so people like, oh, my grandmother did this and her grandmother did this and now I do it. So there's definitely a lot I don't know still.
Yeah, well, and if I weren't already disowned, this podcast would certainly burn all the bridges because you have guided us through some spell creations and some tincture making, and I know you've read my tarot a few times. I've heard it's pronounced tarot, but I'm going to Americanize it.
I don't know,
myself.
actually, maybe our guests can tell us what the it's not tarot. Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, yeah, it's like
I don't
we're
know the
saying it for the
rules.
purpose of function, and if there's a more respectful way to say it, sure, fine, we'll do. But yeah, I actually just paid for like an upgrade on my astrology app as well, and it did not make me less single, but it made me more aware of it. So awareness is the first key, and I know people. I think there have been some studies on there was like a study with civilians where they gave them all the same horoscope, and it was Charles Manson's, and they were all like, yeah, no, this describes me to a T. And they're like, see, astrology is not real. Everyone thought it was theirs, even though they had different signs. But it's like, I think there's too many variables in a study like that. And for me, and I am also acknowledging I've switched tracks because we're going to also dabble a little bit in astrology as well here, and mysticisms generally. But I think for me, it's like, it's not even about the supernatural. It's actually about a deep connection to the natural and to the natural world, and the subtlety, the subtle arts, as they say, the subtleties that are happening in our biology, in our atmosphere, in our exposure to the seasons and customs of where we're from. And I think for me, it's like, it is fun. And it's also like, it's an observable pattern. I think it's an observable pattern. And it's for me, a place to begin. It's not like, oh, this is psychic reading your future, whether it's astrology or tarot. It's like, this is kind of where you're at, where you're coming from, your communication style, the things, the cards you've been dealt. And it's still up to you how to deal and respond to it.
I think that kind of hits on what my belief is. And I've always said this because I think I've read tarot for maybe 10 years now, and people are like, oh, can you really read the future? And my belief is very much I have seen crazy things in cards. I cannot explain why it does fit some people so well sometimes, right? And I've had the cards really clearly tell me something that I needed to listen to and didn't. So that I want to say is I don't necessarily believe that there's an inherent magic within it, right? What I do believe is that there's some strange coincidences in this world. And when you listen and you look around and you validate it, or you decide to rebel against it, I think that's really what the power of tarot is, right? When my cards say oh, you really need to be looking for trickery around you, right? My self can say, wow, I actually see that in my love life, or I see that in my work life, I see that in my family, wherever it may be. Or I might be like, this card's totally wrong. But by seeing that card and rebelling it against it, it kind of does connect to my present and my future, right? So I think that there's a lot of power and that. And then I think one of the other things I wanted to kind of mention that I think is cool about tarot, and maybe our guests will know more, but there's multiple, there's Wicca, there's Santeria, there's Voodoo, there's a lot of different religions that deal in the mysticism, right? And tarot, I think, is really cool because it's across many. I use it in my Wicca practices, but I also know people who use it in Santeria. And so I think that's one of the real cool parts about it, is because I think culturally it's from the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And I think I actually have the original deck, so we'll pull it
so
out
they got
when
the
we do
pentacles and the knight and the king and queen. It's very
oh yeah, good point.
Feudal.
That is very Middle Ages. I didn't even so, but I think that, it's now, I think tarot is now used more broadly than just Celtic would be one of the religions that was based in that area, Celtic paganism. So I'm interested to hear I actually don't think, as far as I know, in Eastern practices, I don't know if they use as much tarot, because that's a lot more tea leaves. That's a lot their
what is
the real dragon and all of that. They have different systems, so I don't know if they use
the I Ching. The I Ching.
So I think that will be cool to hear about, if our guest knows any of the differences or anything like that. But I don't know. I
mean, I think it's gorgeous that we're incorporating these practices into our lives in a modern way, even if, we're not like mages and seers and soothsayers, and we're not taking this to like some level of high academia. It's like it is a practice of the people. It is like a practice of people's daily lives, and I think there's actually like a great amount of respect in that as well, and keeping that alive. And it's I think something people make fun of a lot, but I think there is a way to just have it as like a very, kind of like lovely daily, not daily, but, like day to day kind of practice where it's like, yeah, it's not some highfalutin far off concept we can't access. We can access it. We can like speak to our inner selves in, I think, a way that's really mindful.
I do it regularly. I've even bought runes, which is kind of similar to tarot, and I don't know how to use those yet. I don't know if I'll ever figure it out. It might be like tea leaves when I tried to learn to do that. But I think what's interesting, and I'm interested to hear from the guests as well, is I only know how to do, well, I could figure out how to do it, but I typically only do 2 readings. So I either do what's called a Celtic cross, and that's the one that you see me like lay out. I do the card, cross, and then around, and then so that's called the Celtic cross. And like
Celtic.
each one of those positions has a meaning. Like one is the future, one is what crowns you, what is your foundation. And then I know how to easily do like a past, present, future reading. So just 3 cards. But I know there's a ton of readings out there. Like I've seen there's like a tree of life. When I was in New Orleans, I had the coolest, oh my God, I should try and find her card and we'll do a shout out to her. I had the coolest reading I've ever had where she had multiple decks at the same time. And she was like throwing the cards between her hands, and one would just kind of like fly out randomly. And like that would be the card. And then she'd like pull from a different deck and read over there. So I'm interested to find out, like, does this person know other types of readings than I do? Like, what do you use different types of readings for different people or different questions? Because again, like I pretty much am like, do you want me to do the Celtic cross or do you have a very short question? So I think that's super interesting.
So here's how I think we would do it. I think to get started in tarot, I think maybe you have some kind of exposure to it, whether you have a reading or a friend, and maybe you kind of get your first exposure there. Then I think you've got to like maybe do a little research, see what's speaking to you, maybe head down to Reddit or Google. Are you vibing with your Celtic or Norse ancestors? Are you feeling a call to something? And then I think you've got to go to like a rarities, oddities, head shoppy kind of spooky place, or
so
find a deck somewhere.
I skipped the Reddit step. I had readings before, and then I want to say it was like a yarn shop in Oakland. And they say this is how you should buy them, is that a deck should call your name. And I was walking through this yarn shop, and I was like, oh my God, like you've seen my deck. It's very like my colors and like moody, and like there's a lot of nudity in it. It's very me. And like the deck should call your name, and then that's what you should read, is what they say. Like, or someone gifts you a deck. They say that you're not supposed to like go buy a deck with the purpose of being like, oh, I'm going to read. Like you should be inspired. Well, no, I think you had it right.
I think you're like, going to like a sort of like place of spiritualism. You're like, like some kind of shop or something, and you're just letting it kind of happen. I think that's maybe a good pure-hearted version. But yeah, there are like lots of different kinds of decks. I actually have a deck, but it's a chakra deck. I got it when I was at Buddhist school, and like I don't necessarily, I haven't read through them all, but it doesn't really speak to me very much. But maybe there's a lesson in that.
Well, there's tons of different. There's oracle cards. There's spirit animal cards, which is actually a Native American tradition. Shout out to all the white people. Please stop using them.
No more powwows. No more burying the axe.
Well, and it's like actually that's good.
Up the totem pole.
But the spirit animal cards got big with kind of the Wicca and paganism kind of becoming cool in the last 10 years. So that's become more common, but that really is a Native American ritual. I did have a Native American do it for me while I was in wilderness camp. Bringing it back to that again. And mine was a deer. So that's what my spirit animal apparently is.
I just
but there's
found mine on DMT. I just went straight to the source.
yeah, that will also find it, and that's why my mom said her friends won't listen to our podcast, is because we mentioned
Or
drugs and
not
swearing too
DMT,
much.
mescaline. Mescaline is it's like peyote. DMT is like what you is
Yeah.
different.
Ayahuasca. DMT is
It's in your brain
it's
already.
a derivative of ayahuasca.
Yeah. It's what your brain releases when you're born.
DMT is fire. Highly recommend.
Born, dream, and die.
So actually, side tangent. I did DMT years ago. I did it a few times. I had this experience where this golden blue woman looked at me and like winked. I think I've told you about this before. And I was reading the other day that like a lot of people who take DMT see that same exact woman, and that they think that like there's this like theory out there in that community that like that's actually God or something, or like whatever. If that's true, I saw her and she's fire.
Yeah.
And she also looks like she's probably East Asian, not white. Hate to break it to everyone.
I saw, the light beings. I had an experience with the light beings. It was gorgeous. But we can do all of this magic right here in our mortal plane with our own spirit energies. And is there anything we think we're missing on our journey to beginning to read tarot? So we've got our internal quest, we've got our deck of cards, and then maybe
open mind
and some kind of do the decks come? I guess usually you could just find on Google like kinds of readings, or if the decks come
with a tiny little book like that big, and it'll tell you like 5 words about each card, and then like a reading. I'll actually share in the show notes a book that I used, or maybe we'll use it as a prop in the second one. We're gonna try and
do a reading
from now on. We could do that. Our YouTube listeners, we're really showing up for you guys. We're gonna try and bring more props on. Like, subscribe, and listen. But I think there are a lot of books that are about tarot and like readings and different setups. So I've bought many books. I've read them all. I found that certain ones make a lot more sense to me in the way that I read. And I think one of the other biggest pieces that people really don't connect is storytelling. So you can have the layout, you can know the layout, you can have the memorization of each card, but you have to connect that into a story for each person that's going to resonate with them, right? Like, because I could be like, hey, Bex, I see the death card. That's transformation. You're going to transform soon. Right? That's not helpful. But if I'm like, hey, Bex, like, I see that you had like a card in your foundation that was strength. You're really like using your strength right now to go through this journey that you're on of transformation. And like, if you tap into that strength, you can really grow and build. Right. So that piece, the difference of those two stories is what makes the difference between somebody who's really probably good at reading tarot, whatever you want to say, or now I'm self-conscious about it. Or like somebody who's just like, oh, that's what it says, right? Like they really have to be able to weave that tale into something that just really captures you in. I think those are the big pieces.
Yeah. And then that's your gateway. And then you're straight to the devil.
Well, then you're me, and you got runes, you got tea leaves, you got tarot, you got I got pentagons and pentacles all over the house. So I'm here for it.
Well, let's
and you know what?
Pentagon a break. And that was not good, but
that was so bad. It was amazing. I'm really glad that was here. I was here for that one. All right, let's Pentagon a break.
Hi, all you ghouls and goblins. Welcome back to the pod. This is the halfway point if you're joining us back in the We're Experts Now pod. We are with experts. This is my friend Colleen. Colleen, introduce yourself to the friends.
Hi, my name's Colleen. I'm a writer and comedian from Chicago. Just moved to LA last year. And I know Rebecca through the stand-up workshop we did, all women stand-up workshop, just this summer, which was really fun. And yeah, I've been reading tarot for myself for about 5 years and for other people since the pandemic. So March 2020 to be exact.
I like
Yeah.
that you have the date. You're like,
Yeah.
it was March
Yeah.
14th, 2020.
Basically.
Also, hi, Midwesterner. My mom's from
Oh,
Illinois. My mom's from Peoria. So
oh my
I do
gosh,
love the
amazing.
Midwest. And I'm going to Indianapolis this week. So
Nice.
loving it.
I like
And
Indianapolis.
my friend said the most Midwestern thing on the call yesterday when I was talking to her. And she's like, some neighbor drives by and she's like, oh, well, we see you at the block party later. She's like, yeah, we're signed up to work at the registration in the bounce house. And I was like, no one would ever have that conversation in California.
It's so true. Bounce houses here are like beige, like aesthetic, like
Oh
kind
my
of Kim
God.
Kardashian type of.
It's just
vibe.
pillows.
Yeah.
Actually, it's giant pillows and bean bags that are all like a very, finely woven string.
Yeah.
Not doing the resort taupe theme for a bounce house. It's supposed to be primary colors.
I've seen it. But yeah, Midwest is the best.
It's got its very special vibe, and then people
Yeah.
always are like asking my mom if she used like Yukon Gold potatoes for her mashed potatoes, and she's like, no, that's butter. That's butter.
Oh,
That's the secret.
That's
the
what's giving it that
okay.
color. It's the butter.
That's the golden
Yeah.
color. It's the
And they are delicious. They are.
Ooh, I love mashed potatoes. Those
a
sound good.
hot dish. Yeah. Very
Okay, now that
Midwestern.
I have diverted,
I know, now that you've sucked up, let's get our scores.
How'd we do?
How was our breakdown of the dark arts?
Honestly, I told you guys already, I was a little intimidated because I feel like you got like a 12 or 13 on the expertise, especially Jackie, since she said I could rate you individually. But Rebecca, you knew a lot too. And I was like, oh, I'm coming in on the expert as an expert on tarot. I'm like, I don't know if I know more than
we
them.
use the term expert loosely at times. Like sometimes it's just a lived experience and we're hearing your story, right?
Yeah, I love
Other
that.
times, people are a little bit more sciencey, but we can't do science all day, every day. Becks and I's brains will explode.
Yeah, I think it's, whatever that you get excited to pay tribute to, and what's your experience of that. And that's what we're here to, celebrate and lift up today is some tarot and some card reading.
So how did you get into it then? Like what was like the draw, or did you just fall into it? Did you get a reading? What happened?
Yeah, I had a lot of friends in Chicago who were really into tarot reading. So I got into it basically because a lot of friends would just be like, okay, we're all at someone's house and it's late or after a night out or something, or before a night out, just start doing tarot readings because someone always had a tarot deck on them. So I got into it from seeing friends read tarot for me and seeing how like on point it could be, and just and loving seeing everyone's different decks and like all the artwork. So I just kind of got obsessed with it on my own as like a self-care ritual. And so I just started doing it, especially again during the pandemic, started doing it every day. I was like, I need something to center myself every day, and that I had a very long list of things I would do to center myself during that time. And tarot was definitely top of the list and very helpful for that.
Mine was drinking. So no,
that
actually
too.
It wasn't. But
No,
my roommate was sober at the time, so it wasn't, but I was smoking a lot of pot. But I think that's actually super interesting to me because I'm completely self-taught. Like everything I know about tarot, I either read in a book or like just kind of like picked up or like kind of like heard 4 different versions of something. So I think it's super cool that you were around people doing readings, because that was I sometimes like wonder if I'm actually doing it right, because I feel like there are certain pieces of it that I do kind of feel like I made up. So
I get that.
When you had all those friends, were you like, did they read cards differently?
Yeah, they do. And some people, a lot of people would like just go by the book and like read you what the guidebook says. And there were so many different decks floating around. I actually didn't even learn. I don't even own a Rider-Waite deck because I learned from this deck.
A Rider-Waite deck?
Is it this
one?
Is
that how you pronounce it? The traditional one.
What did you call it?
Rider-Waite. Am I pronouncing
Rider-Waite.
Right?
I don't know. I've never heard of this. Is that the name of the people who made it or something?
Waite. So yeah. I think you're saying it right, Rider-Waite.
And I think that's kind of like, from my understanding, the template that all other decks go by. Like that's like the original format. So I didn't even learn off that one. I learned off one. I have all my decks with me here, but I learned off one called The Wild Unknown by Kim Claes. And so it's like a much darker, like very artsy, deep
Mine's
kind
darker
of like,
too.
yeah. And so I learned
A
off
lot
of
of
that.
boobs.
So like a different, very different kind of deck. But yeah, it was very just going through what friends had told me about cards and readings and going by the guidebook. And then a lot of Googling of like, what else could this mean? Or like, what has this tarot reader interpreted this card to be? So like, there's so many different variations and meanings out there.
Do you have one deck that you really love now?
Still the Wild Unknown deck that I guess the one I learned on, which
okay.
Are we allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
promo.
Sure.
The Wild Unknown by Kim Claes.
I'm gonna write it down for later. Normally I'm
deck.
taking notes, but now I'm gonna
Yeah.
I love it. So mine, I actually don't know what mine is called, and I've like loved mine forever. It's Secret Tarot. And it's
secret.
like I do, and this was like I just bought the deck one day. It's like very like my colors, and it's like very like whimsical, and then there's like a lot of like brooding dudes, you know, like, and I'm about it.
So wait, now I have yes.
I do think that like that's like I learned the same way. I didn't get that other deck until a couple of years, the Rider-Waite deck until a couple years ago, and I honestly still don't read with it. I only read with that deck. I've tried to get so many other decks over the years, and I can read on some of them, but like that's the only deck that I feel like I can really weave a good story on.
Yeah, no, I feel that way too. I feel like the deck I learned on and like first got for myself, that's the one I'm like, that's going to tell me the truth. Like I have other decks for other purposes, but this one will like read me to filth.
Love that. Okay, so that answered one of my questions, was if you do use that Rider-Waite one now, and then if you've like had readings professionally done for yourself, or like have you looked into that at all, or has it just been this like community and self-care practice?
It's mostly been that, but on a trip to Portland, Maine years ago, my friend and I just randomly walked by this shop that said, psychic tarot readings. And we went in and got tarot readings. I think she did a Celtic cross reading, and I wish I had taken like a picture of it or something, but luckily my friend like took notes on mine, and a lot of the things ended up being pretty accurate, but and like still are. I still kind of think about that reading. And then I don't know that, I think because I do tarot so much, or like have friends do tarot for me. Like I have a friend who is a great tarot reader and has moon ritual parties every month. So like we do tarot readings as groups there, which is really fun. So I feel like I don't seek it out professionally as much, but I love going to like a psychic or an astrologer for sure.
Well, I just was part of a moon ritual 2 nights ago for this harvest moon. Did you do anything this full moon cycle?
For that moon, I just did a 3-card tarot reading for myself and journaled.
Oh, so this is still like a daily practice for you.
Yeah, it is. I try to do it at least once a week, like a weekly check-in kind of thing.
That's kind of what when I was learning to try and start memorizing it, I had to do it a lot more often. And then like to remember, and that's what I wanted to ask is, what format do you do? Because I think I mentioned this in part 1. Like I really only do Celtic cross or a 3-card lay. Do you do multiple? Do you only do one?
I feel like, I've done Celtic crosses before, because I know that's like one that tarot readers use a lot, but it kind of overwhelms me. I get like confused about like which slot is each. So I normally do like a 1-card or a 3-card past, present, future. Or sometimes I'll just be really loose about it and be like, if I don't think it's past, present, future, maybe it's just like the 3 cards I need to see right now that tell a story together. So I'm very loose with it, but usually 3 cards.
See, and that's also so interesting to me, because it was like I played Dungeons and Dragons. I was at like my niece was learning to play recently, and the dungeon master was explaining me how he does it, and he's like, yeah, and it's just loose, and here are my notes, and it was like 5 notes, and I almost panicked, right, because I was like, how do you like, I'm an event planner by trade, right? So like you're saying, like, yeah, sometimes I just pull the cards. I'm like, no, I need to know. And I like get very stressed out on like being perfect in the card reading. And it often like gets in my way. And so it's really cool to hear you say like, oh no, I just let it flow. And I have to like internalize when I hear people say that sometimes, of like, yeah, you do just have to let things be and like listen to it versus trying to like force it through a process that I think it needs to go down.
Exactly. And I think it is really a test of like using your intuition, because it like all the friends that taught me tarot would be like, you know, if cards fall out while you're shuffling, those cards want you to see them. Like, so just like being really in tune with like, okay, whatever happens, like this was supposed to happen. I was supposed to see this card for some reason. So it is a test of like use it. I second guess myself too, like, oh, am I overanalyzing this, or like, are these the right cards? But I think with time, I've just learned to be just trusting my gut more with it.
Yeah, I needed to hear that today.
Yes, I love this. I'm also like just soothed by the idea of these friendships where you're just like, can you teach me? Like, is that how you start? You just ask and then they tell you little pointers, or like you get your own deck and start throwing together? Like, how does it start?
I think because my group of friends was doing it so often, it was like you were learning that way, just seeing other people, seeing friends get tarot read and then having your tarot read at like a party or something. You're learning that way. And then, yeah, of course, like once I bought a deck, which I've heard you're supposed to be gifted one. You're not supposed to buy one, but whatever. I bought it.
I bought my first one too. I try to
yeah.
gift out all the ones I don't use, like the ones I don't connect to. I
That's a
gift
good
those ones out. But like, yeah, I bought mine first.
Ooh, I should do that, because there's some decks I'm like, I'm not really connecting with this. But yeah, I think just as I was going along the journey of like reading for myself, if I was confused about a card, or if a card was like scary to me at the time, I would reach out to friends and be like, well, how do you read this? So everyone's just so helpful and like passionate about it. And like so many of my friends do it every day too. So it's just kind of something that comes up a lot naturally.
Bex, can we start doing this together?
I'm like, do I have to learn tarot now?
Yes, because I like hearing you say how that's such a cool community, and like I've thought about like finding a coven or something else, like, and like all of my spirituality is very like me based, because most of my friends are not as probably spiritual as me. Like I have a couple friends who jump into that boat with me, but like Casey from the IVF episode, she's probably my most witchy friend. But that's really cool to like hear like that guidance and that like feedback and like that support. And I think, I don't know, post pandemic and during pandemic, like we're all looking for that connection and like ways to like, you know, feel each other on all these different levels and not feel so alone in this world. I think that's such a cool way to kind of let people into your life.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it was a really interesting process when I started, because I just started randomly on a whim on Instagram, March 2020, when everyone is like trying to find ways to connect with other people. There were so many different things going around, but I just was like, one day I said, if anyone wants a 1-card tarot reading for free, DM me. And I got like 50 people being like, I want a 1-card tarot reading. So it just started from that. And it was surprising, because even people that were like, I don't really understand tarot, I don't know if I believe in it, or it's kind of against my religion. I even got some people saying that, but I still want one because I'm interested. So you get so many different people with different backgrounds with it. And so it was really cool to read for all these different types of people too.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, like, you can do it. How does it work remotely when it's like, isn't the person getting read supposed to like put their energy into the cards or like draw the cards themselves? How does that differ?
Yeah, that's ideal to be in person, I think. But and this is how I started reading for people, was virtually. I'd never done a reading in person on someone yet when I started this. So I just told people to like tell me a little bit about what they wanted a reading about, and like give me as much detail as possible. And a lot of these people on Instagram, I knew them already, so I already knew kind of their vibe, or I knew them pretty well, hopefully. But yeah, I think it became like a written form, because I love to write too. So it became like, okay, I drew this card for you, and I'm going to write it out of like all the possible meanings, and then relate it back to your question that you had. And I did keep it kind of general as well, because I'm like, if I don't really know that person, or I wasn't able to get their energy in person, it was like, I'll keep it kind of general in case, I'm off base. But yeah, I got a lot of positive feedback. I even asked at some point, like, would people rather me do a Zoom video? And a lot of people are like, no, I like the written form, because you can really take it in and like spend time with it and come back to it. So it was a really different way of doing a tarot reading, but it worked out.
Oh, so I'm like, should we do a tarot reading?
we should. But I wanted to ask, Okay, so I actually, if I know somebody, I don't want them to tell me their question, actually, because
Oh, interesting.
I always think that I'm going to tell them my advice, not the card
Mm.
advice. And
Oh,
I even
interesting.
find myself doing that. Like, for example, one of my best friends, Jessica, she always wants a reading. I always do it. And sometimes I think I know, like, I'm like, oh, this is about her relationship. And I start leaning the advice that way. And then I have to be like, you don't know. And oftentimes I'm wrong. It's not about her, whatever I'm thinking it is. So I think it's interesting
Mhm.
that you do, like, do you always ask, like, know the question, and do you always like tie it to that way? And do you think that affects the way that you read?
Well, I keep it open. I tell people if you have a specific question that's not a yes or no, because that's the other, you probably know this, Jackie. Like a yes or no question is usually kind of like you should have like an open ended question for the best like kind of result that you're going to get out of it. But I would say if you don't have a question or anything you're like troubled about or conflicted about or need to know more about, then you can just say a general reading and I'll just tell you what the card means and you can take what you want from it, you know.
Do
Um
you ever feel like, though, you're like your personal influences, like when you know the question, like you, like your friend is like, should I, like, is my relationship working out, like, or like what should I be doing in my relationship, and like the cards are like, oh, be patient, and you're like, leave him.
I actually it's funny. I'm surprised I don't, but for some reason I don't. I think I've also like learned the hard way just in life that you can't tell someone else what to do and no one can tell me what to do. And I know that's true for other people. So they will just have to find out themselves. So I try to treat it in those instances as like, what is this card saying to them right now? And just like in this moment and I don't know. I don't know how I'm able to take my
You're less
bias out of it.
codependent than me. That's how you're doing that. I'm gonna tell you right now.
So then what do you think I guess what do you do with what you get from the cards? Is it like something that then you use as just like a meditative reminder? Do you need to write it down for yourself? Do you need to look back at it? Or is it just something that you're like, okay, I've absorbed it and I'm going to trust that it'll sort of just be there?
When I do one for myself.
Yeah, or I guess for anyone, for general, like what does one get out of a tarot reading?
Well, when I do one for other people, I always do the write up and I also take a pretty little picture and like edit it to look really like aesthetic and
Oh, I love.
I love
yeah.
this.
So it is so that you have to have that visual, I think. You can't like
Mm.
not have some kind of picture of the cards at least if you're not going to get a reading in person. And then for myself, I always take a picture of it and it'll just live in my phone. And then every now and again, I'll look back. I have like a tarot album on my phone. And I'll just look back and be like, oh, like what was I going through during that time? And then think about that tarot reading again. And sometimes I'll journal if it's like a really heavy time or like something I'm really conflicted about. I'll journal and then put a picture of the reading in the journal entry because I journal in an app. Like everything is like so
Okay.
digital for me. So yeah,
I
so I'll
feel like I
save all
need the
those
full
back.
rundown of recommendations in the notes. Like these are all
Yes.
the notes apps you use.
Oh yeah. I could talk about that all day. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm all about organization.
This is why I like you. This is why I like you.
Are you a
I'm an
Capricorn?
No, I'm an Aquarius, but I love Capricorns. Like I like.
Same.
I
I feel
love
like we get
Capricorns.
along really well,
hmm
Aquarians
I've
and
dated
Capricorns.
many Capricorns.
Oh,
See,
nice.
and this is the tie-in because you also, I feel like you also have some ties into the astrology
Mhm.
readings as well. Is that something you're interested in too?
Yeah, I've never done like a birth chart reading, but I'm very into talking about astrology. I also, some of my tarot friends do astrology
Yeah.
charts and are super knowledgeable about it.
Dude,
I
they're
have
so
an
hard.
astrologer.
Yeah, that's
I
smart.
get
Very
I tried to
LA.
that.
I have an astrologer.
I tried to learn how to do it myself, and I was like, and I love math, to be very clear. I love
Ugh,
math, and I was like, say what? Like that's
Hmm.
it's
confusing.
you need, like, I feel like a degree to run an
Yeah, it
astrology
is
chart.
no joke. I One of the books I put in my recommendations was "You Were Born for This" by Chani Nicholas. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys have read it, but
Mm-mm.
I've
she
definitely heard of
actually,
Chani,
yeah, she has
right?
the
She goes by
app.
Chani, right? Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
she
yeah,
has
yeah.
the app that is amazing for daily horoscopes and also does like little breakdowns of your birth chart in the app too. But her book really is the first time someone explained it in a way that was accessible, and I was like, oh, I'm starting to get this. So that was the only
Mm.
thing that really helped me. But I don't remember all of it. You know, it's like so much
Yeah.
info, and these astrologers just know so much and remember all of it, and then can interweave all these other things and degrees. And I have no idea how they do it.
I think that's like, it's because I've tried to learn, and I think I've learned this in the mentioned in this first part. I've tried to learn runes. I've tried to learn tea leaves. I've tried to
That's
learn
right.
like, I forget what these are called. These are Irish and they have like their own little like special name.
Ooh.
They're
What are
like
those
runes,
blocks?
but
What?
they're like
Oh,
they're
Oh,
little pieces of
cool.
wood and they're kind of like runes.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and then there's
and
the
I
I
feel like
Ching and just all sorts
some
of
of them are,
divination.
yeah, like some of them are like much easier than others, I feel like, and depending on like what kind of brain you have. Like I'm not a visual person, so tea leaves was incredibly hard for me to do because it's like see the shapes out of this and then tell the story, and I'm like, I see a blob,
I
right?
see
So,
leaves. I
Yeah.
see tea leaves.
Yeah.
and I feel like tarot is one of those ones that's very like, it's got so much to learn and so much breadth, similar to
Yeah.
astrology, that I feel like once you've learned one of these big pieces and then you see how much work one of the other big ones like astrology is, like it's almost daunting to think about learning another one. You're like, this is a lot of
Yeah.
information.
No, totally. And there's even, I did a little bit of a dive when I was learning tarot about like how astrology connects with tarot. And so each tarot
Mm.
card has like an energy of a certain zodiac sign, or maybe
Oh.
one or two at the same time. So that was interesting too. It's like, it's all interconnected. It's so complex.
Now I'm like thinking of the pictures I've taken of the ones you've read for me, Jackie, where I'm like, now I want to go back and be like, does the astrology line up?
Yeah. It's interesting.
I started a new practice of adding in the runes because I don't know how to use them the way that they're supposed to be used. But I started having someone pull a rune, which has its own meaning, and apply that to the overarching
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
tarot reading,
Yeah.
which is like, that's the only thing I can figure out how to do now, is to build onto tarot and to not learn a new
Yeah.
one.
No, I totally get that. I've tried so many different decks. Like I've tried Lenormand. Have you ever tried a Lenormand deck? It's like a French kind of tarot-ish thing. And those are a little tricky, but like I gave it a try for a little bit. And then I also just learned that I love oracle decks that are more like based on their cards, more based on the artist's vision for the deck and not like this standardized like tarot system. So I think as I've gone through the journey, I've realized I like some oracle decks a lot more than like a tarot deck. But I still love tarot. When you need like an answer, I think tarot is really good for that.
I feel like oracle decks are often sometimes tied to like the angels, which I don't vibe with. I've seen a lot of like, have you seen the angel decks
I
of
have
that?
seen lots of angels. Yeah, not
Which
my
I
vibe
feel
either.
like is like Christianity's way to be like, this is
Yeah,
fun game that we can do, right? But
yeah,
don't do tarot. Tarot's bad. Angel decks.
yeah. I know,
Okay.
it's so interesting. Yeah, I have
Torah,
not
not
bought an angel
tarot.
one. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll go.
And it took me a second, but it's funny. It's
Sometimes
me
I
that's
don't get them
slow.
until editing the episode. And I'm like, oh, that was really funny. And I clearly do not get it.
But yeah, no, I have not gotten on there's a lot of like angel numbers stuff too. I
Oh,
feel like
angel
the
numbers.
Twitter verse of tarot and like angel stuff it's very like girly and like your angel number is this, and I think that's fun too, but it's not really. I think for whatever reason I love like the darkest artwork you can find in like a tarot deck is what I go towards.
I did have just an angel number experience recently where I was on a road trip. I stopped to get some coffee at like a very beachy town. I was feeling relaxed. I was like, I'm on this whole new journey where like I live my life for others with generosity, trying to be kind and open to experiences. And when I got my coffee, the girl was like, 555 angel numbers. And I was like,
Oh
we
my
just
god.
we just had a connection because I mean it's because the tax is 2% higher in that beach town and it caused 555. It's for real discernible reasons, but I was like, no, I manifested that.
You
No,
manifested
because your
that.
energy was so strong. I believe it because your energy was so strong that the
Mhm.
universe was like, and here you go.
And also that she was like, I'm going to say that to this person. She's going to
Yeah.
receive it, and that I was
That's
able to
so
be like,
cool.
I wasn't in a rush or like, yeah, just through the coffee, I was like, wow, that's so cute that you said that to me, and that like this is a kind
Yeah.
moment. It's not like, I don't know, I just thought it was
I love
charming.
that.
And now
That's
I'm like, I want to know more
special.
about angel numbers. I don't know what it means or what they're there for,
I
but
know. I loosely, like, just because I have numbers that repeat for me. So for you, I would
Mhm.
say just like remember that. And like if you keep seeing fives everywhere, just like note when, maybe.
Mm-mm.
That would be my advice
Yeah.
based on the limited knowledge I have of numerology. But
Okay, so
yeah, I think that's
numerology I've
cool.
done, and one of them, like I think it's like Pythagorean, like
Mm.
same math guy as Pythagorean
Okay.
theorem.
A
He
squared, B squared, C squared. We got it.
yeah. I love that you know the like actual.
A
Yeah,
squared plus B
I
squared
didn't know
equals C
that.
squared. It's the
I did.
equilateral triangle. It's the
I just
basis
knew
of.
that there was a theorem. I didn't know what it was.
I'm
But
so bad at math.
I did his numerology, and that's much easier to do because it's like it's kind of like here's the 6 things that you do and add them up, and here's their meanings. And I actually do not buy into numerology at all because that's like to me there's nothing special there, right?
Yeah,
Like
that
numbers
makes
don't
sense.
change, like right? Like I feel like with even astrology, planets move and that changes the way that your reading will come, right? Where with numerology, it's
True.
like this is how many letters are in your name and that's what it means
Yeah.
about you, right?
I might
Yeah.
like that though, because so my first, middle, and last name, Rebecca Suzanne Buckley, are all 7 letters.
Ooh,
Okay.
Ooh.
That is
777.
777, which is golden, beautiful. You won all the Vegas money. But also is how I learned my times tables. I was like 17, 14, 21, 28, 35,
Whoa.
46, 50, or 42, 56.
Hey,
I don't
and
know them
she is
anymore,
still
but
learning them.
still learning them.
You did better
Oh
than I
yeah,
could.
49. That's got to be one of them
I
because
don't
that's
know.
7
I
times
love it's
7.
49.
I love that. So like
I love numbers.
7 and 5 might be significant for you then.
Mm-hmm.
I also
Interesting.
have I've decided I have synesthesia, and 5, I don't like it. Not a fan.
What is synesthesia?
What is, yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
It's
You're
like
like making things up again, Bex.
no, that's it's actually related to like autism and brain functions, where it's like Rain Man style. But
Mm.
or people who have certain types of autism usually are the ones with synesthesia, but it's the mapping in your brain. It's when neurons fire for 2 different distinct senses, like thunder happens and you smell, like it reminds you of a smell, or like the
Oh.
color red is like emotional to you as well, or like Thursday, you can remember a certain day of the week because you're like, oh, Thursday, July 4th, 1987 has like a feel to me. I will always know like what day of the week it is or something, because it's like mapped in your brain in this other like sense crossover. But yeah, I
Whoa.
don't really have that. I
Okay.
just
Okay.
it's just
Well, I'm
it's the
glad
new
that
That'd
hot
be
girl,
cool.
it's the new hot girl trend to be like, Thursdays are
we're in
cunty,
reclusive girl fall now. We're not doing hot girl things anymore. We're doing reclusive girl things. Get out the sweaters. It's here.
I relate to that.
Okay, so have you tried any of the other ones? I think we were covering that. So you've dabbled in astrology. Any like weird things that you've tried that like maybe people haven't heard of, like my little wood things that I have that I don't know the name of? I'm gonna
I
figure it out.
honestly think Lenormand might be the weirdest thing because it's so random. I
Yeah, what
have
is
this
that?
little deck. I have this little
Because I've
deck
never heard of
from
that.
Labyrinthos, which is a great app for tarot, and also she has all the meanings on her app too. But yeah, it's like and again I dabbled in it, but I don't feel like I ever quite got it. But it's more about cards that have. I'll just show a few cards that have, and I guess this goes back like centuries, like this tradition. But
Oh.
it's like every card is literal and just is like a noun, and then you have to figure out what, like, through the system of the guidebook, you have to figure out what the nouns mean together. Basically, it's like a bunch of symbols and nouns, and it's more literal, so it's like less open to interpretation, which I guess maybe that's why I don't like it as much, because it's like so specific that I get
I
confused.
might
I'm
though.
like,
This sounds like
yeah, you
fun.
might like it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't regret buying the deck and trying it because it was fun to try to learn. But I mean, this is like a little one. I'm sure there's bigger ones in different styles for sure. But yeah, that was just an interesting experiment. But yeah, I don't know. I think it wasn't artsy enough for me. So I am not like, I'm not like a science and math person. I'm very like, I want to be able to make my own interpretation.
I'm
Jackie
getting
is.
these. I'm getting these. Okay, Bex, what did I just text you?
Ogami? Is that what you just?
No, there's no
Ocam?
oh god. Okay, that's the wooden Irish things that I have.
Oh.
Ooh, cool. I want to look into that.
Well, knowing the Irish is probably pronounced like arm. And it's like, there's just 5 letters that you don't pronounce, but it looks like Ogum.
And
There's a woman I work with whose name is Aoife, and I would swear that her name is spelled Aofi. And they're like, no, it's Aoife. And I was like,
yeah, that one you just read it backwards. They're like,
right?
We're the Irish.
Exactly. And I'm hella Irish, so I don't know why I'm like talking smack here. So those are my
Irish
people.
Too.
Yeah, like,
oh my gosh.
you're from Chicago. This checks,
yes,
like, right, like
lots,
that
lots
math
of
is
Irish
mathing.
people.
Yeah, yeah. I check them out. If you do check them out and you figure them out, please let me know.
Yes,
I'm
curious. I should branch out more.
Because like with runes and these, it's like, so you throw them, and then like, I think sometimes you can throw more and sometimes you throw less, and then like it depends on which ones land face up and face down, or like what direction, and then like, so I think that probably face up, face down is similar to probably tarot, where it's like, face up means
Reversed.
1, face up down, yeah. But then it's like not in a position, so you just kind of have to be like, oh, you have these 7 things, 1 is facing this direction, and that's what it meant. And that was where I think that's probably a lot of intuition there, and it broke my brain, because I was like, I don't get this. So maybe you would like those. I have a feeling that we should switch here.
Yeah, we should definitely switch. I'll give you this Lenormand. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Lenormand. Right. And then you can give me the rune.
Yeah, right? We'll get it. Okay, would you be willing to do a 1 card draw for each of us?
Yes. I should ask, like, what kind of deck are you interested in? Because I have all kinds. I have, like, probably my most traditional one is the Crow Tarot. This is kind of the most traditional, so the Rider-Waite, I would say, but it's beautiful crows instead of this traditional imagery. And then, here, I'll give you an example of a card. Like that.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
And then I have my Wild Unknown deck that I use, that I learned on and use all the time. And I will just say about that, the dark cards can be very dark, but it is like really, but she also uses color and light. So this is a more positive card, but she uses color and light in a really cool way.
Wait, what are those called again? I keep forgetting to actually write it down.
The Wild Unknown. And she has she has oracle cards. She has all kinds of, I have an archetype deck from her that I really like. It was my first archetype deck.
I think I've done
I really like it.
I want to do the Wild Unknown one.
Okay.
Yeah, I vote that
probably our best bet. Probably the one I know the best. Oh my gosh. How should we do this? So let's see.
All right, Jackie, you go first.
I go first? Okay.
Yeah.
So since we're on a video, maybe I can just tell me if this feels right to you. I can just shuffle and you can tell me when to stop.
Yeah. Should I ask a specific question? I'll just do a general reading. Yeah, just do a general reading. Okay. I love this. I've never done a virtual reading, so this is actually a new experience for me.
I haven't done one in a long time, so it's a renewed experience for me.
I love it. Oh, also, I wanted to. This is the instant tarot book that I use, folks, and it gives a lot of, like, it tells you in what place each card means, which was really, really helpful to me. It doesn't give you all the reverse, but that's how I learned, essentially, was that book.
Oh, cool. I should read more about it, so I'll probably buy that book after this.
Like, that is because it like lays it out and then it tells you exactly like each piece in each place. So that's why I also do the Celtic cross, because I do. Yeah. I think there's a few versions of the Celtic cross. So.
Okay, cool.
Have you been
So, yeah.
waiting for me this entire time? Oh
You
shit.
can
Okay.
or we can do it a different way if you
Oh,
like.
no. I thought you were like getting them ready, and then I realized that you were not.
Oh, no,
Okay.
you're fine.
Right now sounds
You're
like a good one.
Okay, great. I'm pulling from the top, which is what I usually do. So I pulled the Emperor, which is just a really sturdy card as it looks. It's about stability. It's a very masculine energy card. That's the thing, is there are energies to each card. So it's the number 4, if that means anything to you, in the major arcana, which is the major arcana, I'm sure Jackie knows, but are the last set of cards in a tarot deck that represent more themes and people. And so when you pull one, it's more significant in a way. It's representing a theme in your life, or a person in your life, or maybe just a character trait of yours right now in your life. So I'll read the Emperor in the guidebook. The keywords are protection, stability, and the Father. And it says the Emperor is the father. He's the tarot's perfect counterpart to the Empress. He represents the side of you that's protective, decisive, and truly stable. He brings clarity of mind, and this in turn leads to actions or decisions. Sometimes this card is literal and points to a paternal relationship in your life. At other times, it suggests reconnecting with the part of you that stands strong and tall and knows just what to do. With help from the sun, the Emperor can see for miles and miles. And that's the Emperor.
Okay.
And I can send you pictures too.
Okay. Send pictures later, because that would just be cool for a post. But it's just to see what happens next, because I think that could mean a lot of things for me.
Yeah, cool.
I know, I'm shocked to see Jackie and stability in the same sentence, but I feel like I'm also like proud, because you know what? Jackie has been her own stability lately.
Well, I think that's it. Like, because I think I've worked really hard the last few years to create stability in my life and like strength within my life. And I keep like my tagline recently is like, I'm entering my Renaissance phase. Because like, I think that like, that's where I've been for so long, is like trying to create that. And that card is coming because it is created. Right. And it's that time to move forward into those paths of like, you know, past stability into my Renaissance phase.
Yes.
That's perfect. It's definitely about like, the card's definitely about like your own roots are strong, and like it's a lot of like independence and like not depending on someone else, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I've like, I think like I said earlier, I've a codependency runs strong in this one, right? I have spent a lot of my life seeking external validation, trying to prove things to other people, and like, it's so weird. And I keep talking about this. Like, I bought a piano recently because a keyboard. And I've always said I wanted to learn piano, but I've always not done it because I was working on myself, or I had to figure out my career or whatever. And I've just never taken time for things that I found joy in. And I think I'm only able to do that now because of the stability that I have worked for the last few years and given to myself. And now I can pursue joy.
I love that. That's beautiful.
That was a good card. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll take pictures and send them to you after.
I like that deck. That's really pretty too. I like that.
Isn't it? Yeah, I feel like it's just a very emotional deck to me. I just relate to it the most. Yeah. Rebecca, if you're ready.
Okay, I'm gonna focus on a specific question. Okay. So we'll see.
We won't make you shuffle for 10 minutes.
No worries. I feel like the more you shuffle, the better. So it's also funny because I'm not a good shuffler.
I am not either.
I need to learn that next.
But isn't that part of it? Like the one that falls out? You're like,
yeah, I know. They fall out all the time. Yeah. It works out.
Okay. Let's pull.
Okay. Ooh. The 3 of Wands.
That's pretty.
So this one, it's a really pretty card. The Wands suit is about ambition, creativity, like your spirit. And I'll go back to the imagery in a second because the keyword for this is envisioning the future, which you can just see there in the little bursts of color. The Three of Wands indicates you've had continued support from others, perhaps from parents or two good friends. With their help, you formed a sense of self, of your values and morals. But now it's time to rely on yourself for guidance, clarify your goals, and cast others' needs and opinions aside. The future is infinite and it is yours. No one else can see through its layers of light and shadow. So it's a really pretty card and just about how people have lifted you up, but
What's
now
at the
you can
top?
the Roman numeral
Oh yeah.
is
Oh, it's three. It's
a
three. I
three.
see.
So if that's helpful for you, it's a three. But yeah, it's kind of in the beginning of the Wands journey. So it's like a very optimistic and kind of like looking at things with fresh eyes in a way.
I have
But
never heard that, and I love that, like beginning at the Wands journey. I think that's a really beautiful
oh
interpretation.
yeah. Oh thanks. Yeah. I love looking at each suit as like because I think this guidebook lays it out that way. Like each suit has a beginning and an end, and like the tarot deck itself has a beginning and an end, so it's just a matter of like where you are in the journey.
You're at
I
the
love
beginning, Bex.
I love whenever I ask like a question that I'm like, can you tell me the answer? It's like it's time for you to find answers within yourself.
Classic.
But that's true, right? Like, and that's the thing, was find it within yourself. You gotta
Yeah.
find those answers back. You got them.
I know.
Yeah. And I guess this card is saying like you have had support or you've like reached out and like asked for advice already, and now it's up to you to like compute that and then decide what you want to do, I guess would be my interpretation of it.
Great.
Yeah.
And I will trust myself.
Yes. I mean, that's my struggle too. I get it.
We'll work on that. Actually, I think you're better at that than some people, Bex.
I love that.
That was a good read. I love that deck too. That's a really, really beautiful deck.
It's gorgeous. It's I know there's no bad cards in the tarot, but like, you know, there's some ones that are a little scarier than others.
Yeah.
Is how I feel. But even those, it's like the way the imagery she creates, and then the way she explains it in the book makes it like you feel like, oh, okay, I can actually use this instead of just being scared or like, oh no, I drew a bad card.
Yeah, because even death can be like, well, it's like the part of the life cycle, and it means that rebirth of something else can happen now. And, you know, it could be metaphoric. It could be, yeah, but transition is scary.
I think what's always interesting is like probably you do this as well as someone who reads regularly, like is seeing the trends within the cards over time, right? Like there is, and I do a Celtic cross when I read most of the time, so I'm pulling like what 13 cards. And I swear for a good 2-year period where I was really, really working on myself, I did not pull a single fucking romance card. Like no
Oh my
lovers,
God.
like
Yes.
no like joy. And like it was all like very like individualistic, like kind of similar to the one Bex just pulled. Like,
Yeah.
and I swear to God, it was like 6 months ago, right when I was thinking about starting to date again, I pulled a romance card and I was like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
things are changing.
Yes.
We're back to where we were. We've reverted a little bit, but maybe we'll reverse again soon.
Oh my God, that's so cool. That's stuff like that. I'm like, I really think your energy like goes into the deck. I really believe that because during like 2020 there was like a 3-year period basically where I was staying, just like had my day job, and I was just like scared to do comedy again and write again. And I was just like, I don't know. I was just like, I was so scared during that time in general. I was like just choosing comfort over anything else. And I was like afraid to be vulnerable and be an artist again. And I kept pulling Wheel of Fortune. Like every reading I did for years, I would get Wheel of Fortune, which is a card about change and being open to change and accepting that change is like the only constant we have in life. And I just would be like, I don't know why I keep pulling this card. And like now looking back, I can see the deck was telling me like, you need to make some changes. And I was like, I don't get it.
That's what I can't explain. Like when people are like, do you believe that this is real? And I'm like, no, like I don't, I'm a very factual person. So I don't really believe much is real, but I cannot explain this, right? Like there are things that happen that like Maybe it's the energy going into the cards. Maybe the cards really are magic. Like, I really can't explain it, but I have on many occasions experienced it myself and watched other people experience it, where like there's just like statistically it's impossible that you pull this card at the right time in the right place. It's just, it is very eerie sometimes.
Yeah, even like your card that you just got, like I wouldn't feel that it really resonated with me, if I had gotten it. It's like, yeah, that applies to you. It doesn't really, I can't like do the mental gymnastics to even make it fit for me. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I know. I tell people that are skeptical too. I say, even if you don't believe in it, that like I do think you have to be pretty open-minded to like get a tarot reading in the first place, or else you're probably not going to get much out of it. But even if you think it's not real, like every card is kind of just an archetype or like a life lesson or like a life theme that always comes up. And so you can even just take that and be like, okay, like each card has a lesson, and I can like think about something a little differently just based on what that card's meaning is, even if you don't believe in it.
I love it. I think it's also like a really good, like you're saying, like a self-care practice, right? Like just to be thinking of like the thought of, even if you don't believe in tarot cards, but you pull a card every day and do the mental work of seeing if you identify it with it or not, that is emotional labor that you are taking, and that is self-work that you are doing.
That's
right.
true.
So like, even if you don't believe in like the magic of these things, I actually do really believe in like, I'm a big believer that like you get out of the world what you put into it, right? And so if you're putting mental energy into a belief system, then that belief system is going to work for you. If you're putting the mental energy into like self-reflecting every day, then that's what you're going to get out of it. And I don't think that everybody sees tarot as self-reflection, but I think you and I both can agree on it that is really like, for us, forms of self-reflection, of like looking at my emotions, identifying it, seeing if that's valid. Can I communicate this? And if I can do all those things, it actually makes me a much better, happier individual.
I love that. That's so true. Yeah, it's just like if you're open to learning more about yourself, or you're in that place, then yeah, you're going to get something out of it no matter what. That's very true.
I feel like that's what we're all doing when we go to tarot, right? Like, you're asking a question, like you're asking for advice, and it's whether you're opening to listening to that advice is really the trick. Like, I think a lot of people go into readings and whatnot and want to hear a certain answer, and I'm willing to hear it when it's different. Like, kind of what Bex was just saying about like, oh, like you like the card resonating at a certain time or not, like, right? Like, you have to be open to hearing that advice. And like, I can hear the card that you gave me and say like, oh, is that advice for now, or is that advice for future? Is that resonating with what I'm doing? And I decide what to do with it.
Yeah, and it is true too that sometimes like I'll sit with a card or like a reading for weeks or months, or like maybe even an entire year, and be like, I don't really know what that meant. Then eventually it will kind of click, or like I can look back to what I was experiencing or what was happening, and then it makes sense. So I feel like, yeah, it just sometimes it's about timing, whether or not the reading resonates with you too.
Okay, well, Jackie, we either could do our usual try to re-explain things, or maybe you should give Colleen a reading.
Oh, ooh, that'd be fun.
God, now I'm
I love
nervous.
that. Don't be.
I've never done a virtual reading before, so like this is
your test. This is your test.
Okay, I'm gonna use my regular cards, because if I'm trying something new, I'm not gonna do any special cards. This is nerve-wracking.
No, don't be. I basically just read from the guidebook, so right? Special.
We'll see what I can do on this. I don't have a guidebook, so I'm just going to have to make it up. But
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm going to shuffle really poorly. I'm glad you guys can't see this. This is actually really embarrassing right now. Just let me know when you're ready.
I am so bad at shuffling. Oh, so just same thing, tell you when.
Yeah, I'll pull from the top.
Okay, ready.
Okay. All right. Oh, God. Okay. So we have received oppression.
Oh, interesting. I love the artwork.
That's why I love this deck. She's a real bad
Whoa.
bitch. So this is the 10 of
Yeah.
Wands. So I'm going to take something from what you just told me of being closer to the end of that journey.
Yep.
And although this card like represents like oppression, and she's holding a skull, which I
love
really
that.
love, and she's smoking a
Wow.
cigarette in the other hand. And I
Multitasking.
just I think that like you can take this in a couple ways, right? Like either you are feeling the oppression and the stress and the tenseness from all around you, and you're feeling that pressure, and that you need to tap into your bad bitch energy and
Yeah.
really, focus on being her holding a skull. Or this is who you're already being, and maybe consider how much oppression that you're giving outward, right? Like being a
Yeah.
bad bitch is really awesome, but maybe not hold a skull while you smoke a cigarette, right? Like,
That's a really cool card.
That's a very visceral reaction though, right? Like, so, I think that like, somewhere in your life, there is a level of influence that you are either experiencing or exerting, and how that influence is panning out into the level that it is affecting you or others is something that you should be considering. Because and I think, I
Yeah.
always think Wands is a very whimsical, like magical place as well. And like
Yeah.
kind of creativity, like coming from that place. And maybe, someone as a writer, it's more about, feeling the oppression of success and trying to figure these things out in that world and fitting your
Yeah.
creativity into a special place, and that oppression. And you need to think outside that box.
Oh my gosh, that really resonates actually. Okay, this is what's crazy about tarot is I pull 10 of Wands all the time. So
No
you just
That is
pulled that.
wild.
Yes, like
That is
seriously, you just
wild.
pulled that for me virtually. And I
That is
love the deck you use. But yeah, I think I don't know, like I know that 10 of Wands can also mean like burden in other decks. And it's like, yeah, I think it's a lot of like self-imposed burden. So that definitely resonates. So thank you for that reading. That was so cool.
Oh, well, thanks for
Wow.
pushing me out of my box
Yay!
specs to do
It was
it. And I'm glad you
great.
enjoyed it. Like
It was
I am.
awesome. I'm gonna check out that deck.
You should. We'll send you all the like kind of stuff in this. And
Oh,
but yeah, this was super helpful. And I do want to kind of like, we don't have to do the regular review, but I do want to just like a couple things that I think I should reiterate that I heard from you today.
okay.
Which is intuition. Really let that flow, like really, really, follow that as your guide. And then just doing the one card readings and seeing what that has to offer on a daily basis and how that can be part of a self-care practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked what you were saying of writing out all the meetings, all the possible meetings, and seeing how that relates to a question, instead of like trying to fit it into one path, seeing all the different ways that it can fit to that path.
Yeah.
And then I like that you said you had a tarot album. And so those were the takeaways I'm taking this
Yes.
way.
I love it.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was actually really super fascinating, because I think sometimes we have experts that we have nothing on and they can teach us a lot, but I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I learned so much from you of just like that intuition side and letting it flow and being present. And I really love all that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was really fun. And it's really nice. It's always fun to talk about tarot and astrology with people who also want to talk about it and don't think it's completely made up. So it's really fun.
Hey, everything's completely made up, right? Like even religion, everything in the world was made up by somebody at some point. So
exactly. Yeah. No, this is so fun.
Well, do you have anything you want to plug or mention here as we wrap up in the end?
I'll just do socials. Okay, so I'm trying to start a meme Instagram page, so I'm gonna plug that. As silly as that sounds, it's called SalemGlitchtrials.
I love that because we're going to Salem, and a big portion of Jackie and I's relationship is sending memes and reels. So
oh my god, when are you going to Salem?
2 weeks, not
for
even.
Halloween.
Well, we're going to Boston for work, and then while we're there, we have like a free afternoon, so we're gonna pop over. We're actually doing a Salem episode. Hence to the listeners, it's coming.
Yes. So you have that to look forward to, and go
listen.
follow Salem Glitch Trials. I just did.
Yeah, I'm about it. Yeah. Okay, we'll get those listens out there. And then thank you one more time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a nice combo.
Yay.
All right, let's go be glitches.
Yes, glitch. That was great. And that was the show. Thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you stay curious.
If you enjoyed this video, watch our other videos here on YouTube, or you should listen to the episode on We're Experts Now podcast. Bex, where can they find us?
You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart Music.
And what if they want to talk to us?
If you have ideas for something you want us to investigate, send us an email at we'reexpertspod@gmail.com. That's wereexpertspod@gmail.com.
Great job on that spelling.
Ooh.
A+. Do you do this professionally?
I believe we're both doing it professionally right now.
Wow, people should know about this.
I completely agree, and you can find us on Instagram at We're Experts Now Pod.
Thanks again, and if you enjoy the show, subscribe and comment, and do not forget to leave a 5-star tip.
That's a great idea. Are you a podcast expert?
I think we both are. I think
We're experts now.
This has been a Just Being Better media production.